Hi guys, this is Dr. Sadasivam once again with you, and today we are going to talk about some of the highlights of the recent budgets. Now, wherever you are going, whether it's television channels or newspapers, so many discussions are taking for 1 or 2 hours. But problem is you don't get a overall picture of what the budget is, because today when I was going through economic times, because there are 20 pages wherever you see it is budget and budget. And the other issue is that I received a WhatsApp where one of my friend was saying that in the next 1 week, whomever you speak to, be it a barber, press wala, somebody is a clerk, somebody is an officer, everybody becomes an economist during this season. Then other issue is the statistics say that only 3% people pay income tax, but the remaining 95% people who don't pay income tax, they all talk about income tax. They're very eager to know what has happened on the income tax. You have 100 mouths and 100 different opinions, right? So in this video, what I am trying to do is, it will just be a 10-15 minutes, and I will try to give you a bird's eye view of what this budget is, and I request you to go through this, and I won't be focusing too much on the data, because for data I will be putting up another video where graphs, last year comparisons, lot of technical things. For example, even within GDP you have real GDP, nominal GDP, fiscal deficit, also you have fiscal deficits, primary deficits, revenue deficits. So many things are there. Many guys who talk about these things do not have a good idea or a clear idea in terms of what each of these things are, right? So to some extent I will try to demystify some of these concepts, but I won't focus too much on data, but I will give you the essence, the spirit of what this budget is. Something like, we have this essence of Bhagavad Gita, right? So without much ado, we will start talking about it. I have a PPT also, which I would try to share in the description link below. So broadly, if you talk about the impact of budget on the stock market, let me clarify to you. This whole video is broadly for the purpose of IAS, IPS aspirants, people who sit for this competitive examination, and of course for others, it will give you a flavor of how much the government is committed in taking this nation forward, right? So once upon a time, whenever this budget was announced, people used to look at budget from a stock market point of view, hoping how will it impact the stock market, how will it affect their income tax, etc. First, we need to understand what is the significance of this budget, because it is not an event for giving schemes, dole out schemes for the people. It means it's an event which will tell you where the money came from, how that money has been spent. Budget is such an event, not an event to dole out freebies, right? Now, let me also share with you that lot of path-breaking policies, they all didn't come during the budget. For example, demonetization. It came in a different time, but it was a path-breaking initiative by the government of India. Today, if India is galloping like this, it is all because of demonetization. Otherwise, we wouldn't have successfully come out of Corona crisis, right? It was a major disaster that hit us, and we have still been able to come out because of tax compliances. The evasions have come down to a very large extent. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster, right? I will try to explain all this. Secondly, you talk about corporate tax reductions. India has one of the cheapest taxes. It is so low. You can look at China, look at other Southeast Asian countries. Anyway, that's a different topic and I don't want to discuss too much. So these were not announced during the budget, but they came after the budget. But at one point of time, the kind of relevance budget had on the stock markets at one point of time, it's not so much of effect is not there nowadays, right? There are certain important things. For example, in this budget, it's focusing so much on growth, and thinking has been extremely proactive and forward thinking. We are talking about technology enabled development. We're talking about energy. Climate accord is being talked about. Our prime minister went to Europe and he hugged a lot of world leaders, you know, up to the name of our country. And next thing that is often being discussed is capex, that is capital expansion. That's extremely important, because by capex the money comes into the economy. It becomes kind of a virtuous cycle, because whenever money is spent, that expenditure, you know, it comes into the liquidity, then you have capacity expansion. So when there is a capacity and expansion, employment increases, then they get salaries, consumption increases and demand increases, and then it comes back. So it's kind of a virtuous cycle in which one leading to another. Of course, reverse also can happen, which is called as vicious circle. You know, it goes on the other side. It happened in Germany, it happened in Zimbabwe, you know, your hyperinflation, stagflation, etc. The second thing is about fiscal deficit. A lot is being talked about it. What is fiscal deficit? For example, you have certain income and you have some expenditure. The difference is that fiscal deficit. For example, if your income is more than your expenditure, then it is positive. But if your expenditure is more than your income, then it is a fiscal deficit. Typically, that's what we are talking about. And today it's approximately 6.8, 6.9%, but nothing to figure. I will explain. Fear, I will explain that. So this is by far a very capital intensive budget. For example, some of the themes, because there is a need for us to rebound from the corona, and we need to set the stage for the next chapter of India's growth. Now, outlay on capital investment, if you see, going to be 4% of the GDP. That's a significant number, guys, 4%. So the broad aim of Capex is to lift millions of people out of the poverty line. Of course, a lot has been done in the last few years. Look at MSME, because big companies have benefited a lot. Look at corporate earnings. They've all gone up by 50%, 60%. But the most affected people are the MSMEs, which are your medium and small scale industries. They're all affected. What is the government doing for them? We will be talking about it. But overall, if you look at this budget, it's very, very expansionary in character. And if you look at some of the goals, you have sunrise areas and sunset areas. The sunrise areas are those areas which are progressing like anything. When the world is moving towards one direction, it's necessary for us also to go in the same direction. For example, if you look at some sunrise, you have blockchains, your cryptocurrency, digitalization, and the whole world is moving towards artificial intelligence, big data analysis, machine learning. Wherever you go, these themes are being discussed. Cisco company is coming up with IoTs, which is the Internet of Things, and a lot of discussions are happening around these themes, whether it's blockchain, green energy. So all these things have been touched upon. For example, solar, additional PLI. PLI means performance linked incentive, just to make our manufacturing more competitive. And what happens when you make it competitive? The economies of scale goes up, and India will become a manufacturing hub throughout the world, right? Atmanirbhar, self-sufficiency. Once upon a time, we used to import crores and crores of machines and other things from foreign countries. But now we have started making all that from the country. I will try to give you some details in terms of what has been done in the last 1 or 2 years, especially as far as the thrust on Atmanirbhar is concerned, right? Nal Se Jal is being discussed, because everywhere you will get tap water in the houses, approximately 2-3 crore houses. Now you might see what kind of a impact it can have on the economy, because ladies don't have to walk so much for fetching water, because labor participation rate is a very important metric as far as macroeconomics is concerned. I will explain all that in a different video, and a lot of advantages are there for the nation. You have Prime Minister Awas Yojana, your Gati Shakti, 7 engines of growth, road, rail, ports. In fact, I'm a corporate trainer. I do a lot of training programs for senior people in Ministry of Railways, dedicated freight corridor, container corporation. I do a lot of trainings for those people, and I interact with those people, and I know the kind of work that is happening there. Your Gati Shakti, your dedicated freight corridor corporation, container corporation is my client, and I discuss with them. I will try to give some data, and crowding in private investment is extremely important. Disinvestment is extremely important, and the government has failed a lot, especially as far as the disinvestment is concerned. And another important thing is your other economic reforms. Then if you talk about SEZ, which is special economy zones, 20-25 years they have done, and many changes have not been done, and we have not kept up abreast of the latest changes, what is happening at the world level. So I won't be giving a lot of data. So broadly, if you look at it, the GDP is approximately 250 lakh crores. Okay, so approximate, I'm telling you, don't give too much of important. So the GDP, the main job of the government is to expand the tax base, whether it is direct taxes, indirect taxes. Look at the figures. Income tax collections have gone up, your GST collections have gone up, everything. For example, if you look at last month, we have crossed more than 1,40,000 crores of GST, and continuously for the last 7-8 months we are crossing 1 lakh. I remember last September when we crossed for the first time 1 lakh crore of collection for GST. It was a moment of great moment for me, and I put up a separate video. But now it's become a normal thing every month. There were opposition people who were complaining about GST, etc. But kind of revenue it had generated is, if we had not had this revenue, we wouldn't have come out of Corona crisis. Look at foreign reserves. It is more than $600 billion, right? At one point of time, when I was a territory sales manager in Maruti, we had our office in Hansalaya building in Connaught Place, Delhi, and I remember I used to sit with my regional manager, and I was discussing with him. Mr. Sashank was my regional manager. Now he's an executive director. We were discussing, saying that India's GDP was $500 billion, GDP of our country. Today you have foreign exchange reserves of $600 billion. Look at how much we have progress. If you go back in time, 1991, when the liberalization started, we only had dollars worth for 3 or 4 days of import, right? We have come a very long way. In some other video, I will try to explain that. Look at the progress we have done in vaccination, more than 93%. Look at what's happening in production linked incentives, China plus one strategy. Lots and lots of things are being done. Your roads, your highways, so much is being done, right?